Just time in a minute. You do not find. You do not know. What about in a minute? Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean first Tetris. Just time in a minute. You do not find. Just keep through down my enemy. Lose 500. We do not stop riding. What about Bill? You do not find good man right. They watched out. Have not. They're dead. What about Bill? You do not find good man right. They watched out. Have not. Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean what about Bill? You do not find good man right. They watched out. Have not. They're dead. What about Bill? You do not find good man right. They watched out. Have not. They're dead. Just time in a minute. You do not find. You do not know. What about in a minute? What about things are now in motion? We do not. You do not know pain. You do not know. I'm gonna. First Tetris. Just time in a minute. You do not find. Just keep through down my enemy. What about things are now in motion? We do not. You do not know pain. You do not know. I'm gonna.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? Hope everyone had an enjoyable evening. It's time to start forging once again. Today's project, a deba bocho, or deba bocho. So I took my billet from yesterday and I cut it down just a little bit to give me a little bit of pre-shaping, but not too much. I'm just waiting on that forge to come up to temperature. So I'm not going to put my billet in there just yet. I don't want it to scale up too much. So I'll use this time to find everything that I'm looking for. Gonna need a hammer. Actually, I'm gonna need probably 2 different hammers. Got my brush. Blade tongs, duckbills, and 2-inch. Fans are on. Good. Looks like I'm set, except for waiting on the forge to come up to temperature. Again, it's just one of those things where if you put your piece in too early, it's there's just a potential to scale up. That it could just be an extra 5 minutes it's sitting in the flame there. So and this is going to come up to temperature pretty quick, so I'm not too worried about it. It's not like we're forging a, you know, 1.5 by 1.5 square. Probably will not need any welding flux. Let's hope not, anyway. So I decided the first thing I'm going to do on this is I'm going to kind of pre-shape the tang a little bit. I just want to bring it up in position. I want the tang completely straight with the spine of the knife. Move that a little closer to the door. Let's rotate it a little bit. Oh wait, still in camera. I think everything's updated. Yep, looks good. Boy, after making that billet yesterday, it sure was nice to get a shower. Oh. And shave. I didn't realize, you know, when I went in to have dinner earlier on in the afternoon, I didn't look that bad. But when I got back up, when I got to the house last night, looked in the mirror, like, wow, you're just covered. Still a little low in temp in there yet. Patience is a virtue. I could have started it up earlier, but the humidity is so high here today. It's just been raining on and off. So, might as well kill time productively. Clean up around the anvil. Not that I'm not going to make a mess of it, but well, there's a lot of scale around that power hammer. You could really just clean up this entire shop with a magnet. All right, so looks like we are just about up to temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and put our billet in. And as I said, the very first thing that I'm going to do is I want to straighten that tang out. I used a little bit of the end of the billet. So it looks kind of ugly. It's not the most perfect thing, but most of that's going to be, you know, hidden inside the handle. So hopefully all of it will, but we'll see. It's not the end of the world. But what's nice is because I chose to go that route, I've got a huge billet right here, you know, slightly over a 1/4 inch thick, and that's going to make a really nice. That's going to make a nice another knife or two. It's a little cold in there, but slowly but surely it's coming up. Ugh. Finish off my iced tea. My shoulder, I don't know what I did. I wasn't swinging a hammer or anything too much yesterday, but I think I just slept when I dumb. But man, my left shoulder is just kind of feeling weird. Let's go one more minute on that. In the meantime, check. Notice one of the cameras is not feeding right now. It likes to change IP addresses on me. Oh, somehow the server got turned off for it. That's weird. So is the address it gave me. Wow. That's a totally different IP range. Well, let's see if that did anything. I'll check up on it later on here. Time to get the show on the road, right? For some reason, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to actually reload and do its thing. So I'm going to start out with my 2.5 pound hammer and just do some work here on this tang. Like I said, I want to bring the tang flat across the spine of the knife. Well, that was easy. So now it's nice and flat. I can take that a little straighter. Just clean up that transition area. At least this camera is working, so that's a good thing. I don't plan on using the power hammer too much today. Just make sure I type that in right. Definitely did. I guess it will catch up whenever it wants to, but apparently it froze up last night when I turned it off, so. Oh, there I am. Look. Nice of you to join us. So I'm going to use these duckbill tongs. And the next thing I'm going to do, let's see if we get a good shot of this. I've kind of pre-rounded this side out just to prevent any splitting or anything like that. But essentially, we're going to hammer this down into a sheep's foot style knife. And our blade is already at 5.5 inches, I believe. I was saying yesterday I want to get a little bit more length out of it. Doesn't have to be a lot. See, all of our conversations are still up there from last night. So I really want to make sure that I have a nice thorough soak on this. It's important that all the material is going to move nice and evenly. It looks like the sun's starting to come out. That's great. It'll just make it warmer in here. Give myself just a little bit more heat. Just make sure the top of the anvil is free of any like any of the flux from yesterday. That can, especially like the melted flux can be really hard, and you don't want to hammer any into the surface there. So I'm just going to start very gently. Yeah. Start working this down to a point. If these tongs would work at all on these. Not very well. But still might do better in those duckbills. I'll give it a try. If I don't like it, I'll switch back to something that I know at least I can get to work. Yeah, and heat is our friend here. Kind of wish I had left that tang just a little wider for this part, but oh well, you gotta deal with what you got sometimes. I just don't think I have any tongs made for this specific size. We'll give those a try. So I'm just gently working this tip down, working both sides, making sure that I don't have anything flare out. I don't want to upset the steel. As a matter of fact, I'll probably run under the power hammer just to bring it down and give it a little bit of a distant taper. and I'm not in a hurry, so you know, a little bit of work, reheat, a little bit of work, reheat, a little bit of work, reheat. Just keep on repeating that. And I think it's everything's going to move very efficiently that way. I'm not giving it time to cool down. I'm stopping while it's still kind of a dull orange or even a bright orange. Got to crack this front door open a little bit. See if I can get some breeze coming in here. Definitely gave us a little bit of light there. So I wonder who's going to be the first to pop in today. So you should be able to see it's kind of coming down real nice, gentle slope. Trying to minimize the amount of fish lipping I have going on there at the very end. I already, I've planned out that some of this material is definitely going to get sacrificed. As it does with every knife. I mean, I never try to forge something to the exact size. I always over forge it. Gives me a little bit more wiggle room, just in case something that you didn't anticipate happens. Well, that's heating up. Let's get another fan going here. I have a big fan up here at the front of the shop. So it's a little noisy, but I don't think the microphone picks it up. If it does, it's not much. But I definitely can't have it on when I light the forge. It just it'll blow any flame out. As a matter of fact, I can even hear the forge sputter every once in a while. Let's rotate that a little bit just to stop air from blowing directly into it. People wonder why I built my forge on a swing arm with a rotating top. This is exactly it. The nice thing is I can move it to whatever station I'm working at just to make it a little bit more convenient. But also, when I have a fan blowing directly into the shop, it's nice to not have it affect the actual forge. One thing I really like about forging this point to shape, I could have pre-cut this, but when you forge it to shape, I'm bringing the pattern down tighter together, so you can really tell a knife that's just been cut from a bar of pattern welded steel. Versus one that's been forged, the lines just flow together. Pay attention next time you see something like that. Like a lot of the cheap Pakistani knives, you can tell that they're essentially just being stamped out. I had a little bit of a heavy blow there on the spine for one hit. I don't think it's gonna. I really notice it. It's really bothering me, but I'll fix it on the next seat. Just working on closing up that tip. It's definitely going to be fun to grind. Waiting on some fresh belts to get delivered today. So let's address this tip. Just trying to minimize any amount of fold over I have going on there. Lost my grip, so instead of continuing on down that path, put it back into the fire. Again, just trying to maintain, as hot as possible working temperature on this. Now, I know I say this quite often, but of all the live streams I do this week, I think this one may end up being the shortest. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm using the edge of the anvil or the side of the anvil as a place to catch the choil area, so I can actually bring the steel back onto itself and minimize the amount of steel that's going to end up folding over at the very tip. I don't want a cold shut, so it's harder to do with knives that aren't the style of billet, especially when they're shorter. They don't have such an abrupt overhang. But with this particular knife, it's working out really well, so I'm going to keep on doing it. Hey Jeff, how you doing? I'm back at it again. Yeah, I think I'm doing just okay as well. Woke up this morning with a pinch in my left shoulder. I believe they call that getting old. Start complaining about all the pains you have from sleeping. What should be the least strenuous activity of your day. Oh, sounds like fun. Valve at the top of the tank, or somewhere down the line? It's all right. I probably won't be here long either. This process doesn't take all that long, even though I'm taking my time at it. That's a good thing. Don't blow something up at home when you can blow it up elsewhere. I'm just pre-shaping that sheep's foot style out or pattern out. I'm gonna go ahead and take it over. Once I get this tip done, I'm gonna take it over to the power hammer. I'm just gonna run it just to make sure that, you know, I'm fairly consistent in my thickness. Before I start doing my bevels on this. I'll take it over there on the next heat. Oh, definitely. Definitely. That's the billet right there. And I mean, that's 2 inches by a little over 1/4 inch thick. So I can get another 2 knives out of that if I want. Smaller knives, obviously, but right now I'm not trying to pull, you know, a distal taper in this just yet. Right now, I just want to make sure that, you know, my steel is essentially the same thickness through and through. That's going to help me get a really nice consistent bevel on here. It's neat how when this cools down, you can actually see what that pattern's going to be in that blade. Yeah, Jeff, that's a billet I don't have to do for next week. So I may cut it in half and make 2 knives out of it. Do 2 knives next week. Doing some orange juice today. A little vitamin C never hurt anyone, right? A lot of it, vitamin C. I mean, I wish there was vodka in this. Might help that shoulder pain go away. I almost picked up a bottle of vodka on Sunday, but apparently my local liquor store is now closed on Sundays. It's inside my grocery store, so they're not allowed to sell beer because they have a wine and spirit store inside. It's kind of convenient though, because I'm always using brandy or some sort of liquor when I'm cooking. Kind of like how this is kind of pre-beveling the edge, helping me thin this down. Obviously, I don't want to take it too thin. And it's still not as controlled as doing it by hand. The amount of distal taper on here is not much. Hey, we'll see you later, Jeff. Thanks for popping in and saying hi. Let's make sure that's nice and straight before we move on to our next part. For this particular style of blade, it's only beveled on one side, so I'm essentially going to use one of my weaknesses as a strength in making this particular blade. I know how I tend to bias my bevels, so we're going to make that work for me. But first, I just want to straighten this spine out just a hair. If I was going a lot thinner on this, we'd have a nice Santoku. Okay, so let's start pulling these bevels down. I want this bevel to kind of start really high. I don't want a severely obtuse angle on this. So I just did the heel. So that's right here, and brought that steel out. So we're about 1/8 of an inch thick, and I think I managed to bring it out almost 3/16 of an inch. I'm going to have to go back and correct this a little bit because I want that backside flat. That bevel's a little over an inch, which is really nice. It's exactly what I'm looking for in this knife. And I just want literally about a 1/4 of an inch rise at the very tip. So when I start grinding this, I'm going to grind the left side of the knife completely flat. Keeping consistent in my blade thickness. Again, you don't want to be grinding off, one spot, spending a lot of time in just one spot because there's a lot more mass. You want to grind it evenly. Now that I've got the majority of it down, I'm going to switch over to my dog's head hammer and just refine the very edge. So I'm going to start on the same side that I was working on. Now I'm just going to come back on the opposite side, sort of hammering at an angle to flatten the left side of that knife. If it's nice and flat, it's going to be easy for someone that knows what they're doing to go ahead and resharpen it. So the last thing you want to do on this style knife is to make a counter bevel. It's very much like a chisel. So I smooth that out a little bit. A little bit of waviness in there, but not much. Right here at the very heel. This is all going to get flattened out with the grinder, but I still want to make sure that it's biased correctly. Now it's time to address any issues you see. And once I'm done with this, I'm gonna crank up the heat a little bit, and we're gonna hammer down the tang. General rule of thumb on this style tang is that it should be at least a minimum of 1/3 the length of the blade. Now, the one thing that's kind of a pain in the ass about this style blade is straightening it, because you don't have two bevels. So you're trying not to hammer on the other side too much. We've got a slight twist in here. So I'm just trying to nudge it. That's better. Yes, I think that'll work. Just going to do one more pass on the spine of the knife with the power hammer, and then we'll start drawing down that tang. So now we've got a real nice distal taper in this for the thickness of this blade. It pretty much goes the entire length of it, which is awesome. But it still terminates at about 3/16 of an inch. So it's definitely different than most blades that you do, where your distal taper ends at 3/16 of an inch. You got a little bit of an issue there. So I'm going to work this tang really hot. I'm only working about half that material. I really think I should just, if this thing's going to keep on doing this freezing up every 25, 30 minutes, then I'm just going to go back to the HDMI, get a higher resolution. And I know that I have to reset it, so. So I'm just waiting for that tang portion to come up to temperature. I'm going to start by thinning down the very end of it, the last 2/3 of this handle. Another 10 seconds. So I clean this off. Like I mentioned before, this is the very end of this billet. So just to be a little precautionary, hitting it with a little bit of flux where I'm hammering. I probably don't need to. I know there's a few cold shuts back here. But again, this is the tang, and it's also my own personal knife, so. I used the worst half of the billet to make my knife. Get this hammer running. Just gonna come in very gently here. Get a little bit of a twist. I'm just going to run it flat. And now that I've got the portions of this blade isolated, after I run this flat, just take that twist out. Or the tang isolated, I guess I should say. Then I'm just going to switch over to doing the rest of it by hand. So far, it looks pretty darn good. I'm use the sharp edge of the anvil as my advantage on this. So we're starting to draw that length out. Yes, maybe you can see it better if it's contrasting against me. So almost done with the forging, and it's what? 151. Just want to bring that out a little longer yet. I know that I'm going to end up stealing some from the choil area just to make it look a little bit more balanced, but still, I'd rather have a little bit too much extra length than not enough. This may also, the tang itself, the portion that's going into the handle, may be a little bit too thick. So I'm going to have to see, you know, that's going to come about later when I actually put all the wood together. So now I'm just going to clean everything up. I'm just using really light blows there. Light hammer blows. Just to kind of square and correct everything where it needs to be. I'm going to check if I have another pair of tongs, I'll grab that better. I'll check this all for straightness. Looks fairly straight. There's one little area where I want to address. A little bit of flux from the bottom of the forge stuck there. Got a little bit more heat on there. A little hot brushing. All right. So there we go. We'll let that cool down. Actually, before I forget about it, turn the pressure down. Last thing you want to do is start this thing when it's set for close to welding temperatures. And I'll need it later on today. So I'm pretty happy with that shape. Obviously, there's some refinement that's going to happen. So here we go. So far, that is the start of our deba bocho. I'm going to correct a lot of this slope down here. This is looking fairly straight. Got a nice lift up here. Probably about a 1/4 inch of this is going to be chopped off or ground down. So I'm actually going to bring this tang. I'll get a little bit more length out of this tang by how I handle this transition right there. But a nice little gentle slope all the way down to the point. Still trying to maintain that sheep's foot kind of profile. So but there you have it. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Jeff for saying hi and keeping me company for a few minutes there. I don't know that I'll be going live again the rest of the day. I think I'm just going to concentrate on getting this ground, which, you know, me using the grinders is kind of boring. But I'm going to get it ground and I'm going to get it heat treated. Said tomorrow, hopefully we can finish it all up. So thanks again, guys, for tuning in. It's been a lovely hour and a half. Very short stream today. Other than that, probably catch you tomorrow. That's the tentative plan. You can always check out our Instagram page, Underhill Forge on Instagram. I always post an announcement about half an hour before we go live. Other than that, I'll see you real soon.
Just time. Wait a minute. You do not have bills. What about in a minute? Lose 500. We do not stop riding. When you mean first address. Just time. Wait a minute. Just ease through down my enemy. Lose 500. We do not stop riding.
What? You're still here? By the way, if you want to see progress pics, I'll be posting those to the Instagram page as well. So, all right, back to finishing up. Later.